What do you want to be when you grow up? If you ask a child this question, there is a good chance that they tell you, I want to be an astronaut. Why? Because being an astronaut is cool and fun. And they are not wrong. As an astronaut, you can freely float in space, and of course, the space station is nothing more than a giant playground of the size of a football field. In weightlessness, you can carry anything that would normally be considered very heavy on Earth, only with one finger. So it's easy to feel like you have some kind of superpower. Also, you can take pretty epic selfies with the Earth and post it on the social media. When interviewed on the news, you would simply have to explain how to go to the toilet in space. So how fun would that be to be an astronaut? Well, in fact, this isn't the full story. There is a side of the astronaut's life that only a few are aware of. Let me take you to the dark side of astronauts. Now, I would like you to imagine. Imagine being strapped down on the top of a 60-meter container filled with the equivalent of a few kilotons of TNT. Do you still think that it is fun? Well, launching into space is nothing more than a controlled explosion. And astronauts do it willingly. Unsurprisingly, it is quite challenging for astronauts to get a life insurance policy. And we can still sadly remember disasters such as the Challenger explosion, where we lost 7 astronauts as the space shuttle was launching into space. A later report showed that you had actually 1 chance out of 9 to die during the first shuttle flight. So how reckless do you need to be to launch into space? Now let's take our imagination even further. Imagine being at 400 kilometers of altitude in the emptiness of space, strapped to a 14-meter stick that you don't even control. Well, this actually happened a few weeks ago to Russian cosmonaut Pyotr Dubrov. Pyotr had to prepare for the arrival of a new module to be docked with a space station, while one of his Russian colleagues was controlling the stick to which he was attached. One single mistake from him or his colleague, or one space debris hitting the space station at that exact moment, and you would end up like George Clooney in the movie Gravity, drifting away with only a limited supply of oxygen, without hope of coming back. But apart from running out of oxygen, do you know that you can also drown inside your spacesuit? Well, this almost happened a few years ago to astronaut Luca Parmitano, as a leak in the cooling system occurred inside his helmet. Water was dangerously accumulating around his head, filling his eyes, ears, nose, and part of his mouth. But thankfully, Luca managed to get back inside the airlock before the fatal accident. And you think this is enough? Wait, there is more. Imagine that your workload is so intense that you have almost to beg for a day off. Well, this happened to the crew of the Skylab 4 mission back in the 70s. During this mission, the crew became extremely tired and struggled to keep up with the tight schedule imposed by NASA. They started to make mistakes and had to take one unplanned day of rest in space. It is also well known that astronauts spend most of their time away from home, either by training in a different country or by being on a space mission. That's why it is quite demanding for their family life. In fact, among the first 3 groups of NASA astronauts, more than half of the couples ended in divorce. And nowadays you can still expect an astronaut to be away from home for at least 1 week a month. So, if you are planning to marry one in the near future, brace yourself. In the end, anyone with the slightest common sense wouldn't accept such a job, right? So, let me ask you this. Who would actually do such a constraining and life-threatening job? Well, I would, and let me tell you why. One should keep in mind that by being an astronaut, it takes a lot of courage and dedication to embrace the dark side of the job, the side that is less known to the public. Because without astronauts, there would be no one to test new technologies in extreme environments and push the frontiers of human understanding. They are actors at the forefront of science, bring innovation, and dare to venture where no one has ever been before. Without astronauts, none of the experiments happening in space now would be possible. Those experiments which bring benefits to us on Earth. Did you know that due to the properties of weightlessness, it is possible to make progress in the research against cancer or Alzheimer's disease? In fact, many breakthroughs have happened thanks to space research and led to many products which we are using on a daily basis without even knowing. If you are a parent, you may have already bought enriched baby food, which was actually developed by NASA scientists for astronauts in long-duration mission. Or you may be using a portable vacuum cleaner at home, which was actually designed for astronauts to collect samples on the moon. And if you are using a smartphone, guess what? Even its miniature camera is using technology developed by NASA. And the list goes on. Without astronauts, we cannot explore other planets. Or to be more precise, we cannot explore them in a realistic amount of time. Humans can make quick decisions on the spot, which robots cannot. And to give you an example, the astronauts of Apollo 17 covered the same distance in 3 days on the moon as the distance covered by the Mars Opportunity rover in 8 years. Through exploration, they most likely will be the ones bringing the answer to the big questions such as, is there life on another planet? So beyond the image that being an astronaut is all cool and fun, beyond their image of celebrity, astronauts decide to embrace the dark side on a daily basis. They make sacrifices, spend less time with their family and children to take the time to inspire us. They undergo tough and intense trainings to minimize the risks of spaceflight mission. And ultimately, they are willing to undertake one of the most extreme jobs that ever existed and dedicate most of their time to provide us with a better future. These extraordinary men and women of the past and the present should be celebrated for the progress they have allowed us to make and the progress to come. And now, at the time of this TED Talk, a new selection of European astronauts is getting started. The first one after a decade. So stay tuned as the people that will represent humankind in future space endeavors are selected now, since they might be standing in front of you. Thank you.